My dear friends, I'd like to welcome you all to the 2023 Masterclass Series, which is entitled The Manifestation Codes. Fascinating subject where we're going to learn how to use our power of manifestation and how to draw upon some very unique codes that reside in nature. Now, today's session is an introduction to the M code technique, which is the manifestation code technique. And I will go through the 5 key steps of the M code technique so that you can become aware of these steps. And then in subsequent classes, we will practice specific manifestations class by class so that, while I will share a fair bit of information with you today, we will actually put it into application as we progress in this Masterclass series. So this series focuses on the fascinating subject of how to draw upon our powers of manifestation and put them into action. Now, in the recent years, this topic has gained much prominence as people seek to empower themselves to navigate through life, and which we can agree that our life today in this world is extremely complex, and therefore using all the powers and faculties we have is a great asset. And a good example is the reaction of humanity to the book and video series of The Secret, which effectively laid out the intriguing concepts of attraction and manifestation with anecdotal examples. And then after that, a lot of other similar books and lecture series followed, in order to fill the hunger of people craving for developing the powers they've been gifted with. And I believe this is absolutely excellent because it indicates a very positive mindset towards human self-development. Now, when I was growing up in the 1960s, such subjects were received with a great deal of skepticism, and worse still, cynicism, largely due to religious and cultural factors. We were always told that the powers of manifestation rested exclusively with God, and the way to access them was through the church, the synagogues, the mosques, the temples, wherever organized human religion called the place of God. So the notion of a person possessing powers of manifestation were borderline blasphemous. Thankfully today this is not the case, because we have all recognized oneness at a deeper level, personal and non-institutional level. We have all recognized oneness. This is an evolution in our intellect, in our thinking as a humanity. We see us and our Creator as oneness, and hence we see no conflict between this line of thinking and drawing upon the powers that have historically been assigned to the Creator alone. Now, in the recent years, as people took on board the laws of attraction and manifestation, they began to try to put it into practice, but the results were mixed. While few were successful, many struggled. And this is also perfectly normal when we embrace an entirely new mindset based on the notion of our infinite capacities and possibilities. Therefore, when I was thinking about our 2023 Masterclass series, I felt that we should take the how-to part, the how to manifest part, to more concrete levels, where more of us can actually be able to practically apply our powers of manifestation to achieve what we seek. So this is the goal of our Masterclass series, and I'm sure you guys are all going to really enjoy it as we go through it. Hence, I put together this 5-step technique called the M code technique, which is short form for manifestation code technique, which enables each one of us to use our powers of manifestation as effectively as we can. So that's what we will focus on for the next coming months. how to attract and manifest what we seek using the M-code technique. This is going to be our theme. Now let us start by looking at what the published literature says about manifestation. How does it define manifestation? One definition is that manifestation is bringing something tangible into your life through attraction and belief. So something tangible that didn't exist now exists because of attraction and belief. The other definition is that which says that manifestations' origins are in religion and spirituality. Because if something spiritual becomes real, it is said to be a manifestation. And we are all familiar with that. And manifestation is an outcome of what we attract. So these are the 3 points that I could pull out from the published literature. Now, my dear friends, attraction and manifestation are often referred to in a joint context. So in our Masterclass series, we will focus on manifestation with the assumption that attraction is part of the outcome of the process. So I won't use the word attraction as much as I will manifestation, but the two are intertwined. Now, during my own spiritual journey, I myself was blessed with an understanding of how manifestation occurs and what steps we can take to manifest what we seek. Interestingly, this realization came to me when I was writing about the 10 stages of the soul in 1995, where after crossing the 10th stage and the door of light, I was blessed with exposure to a wide spectrum of knowledge, much wider than I had prior to that moment. Now, what did I realize from this experience? I will share 3 pertinent ones here today as they relate to manifestation. Firstly, I realized that our Creator is infinite and our Creator is oneness, highly intelligent oneness, and that we all have our roots in this oneness. And I also recognized that we and all creation have emerged from the oneness. So it was a beautiful realization. The only things that separate us from each other really are our physical bodies. So according to this realization, it became evident to me that I am you, you are me, and together we are everything. And this is the statement of universal truth that I wrote about after that. If I hurt you, I hurt myself. If I love you, I love myself. So we are so intertwined, so interconnected. So that was the first realization. Secondly, I realized that in our material world, oneness is expressed through nature. Oneness is expressed through nature. Very important realization. And that nature is actually the motive force behind all creation. Something I had not recognized until then. I also recognize that nature derives its power from the Creator. Like Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita relates, and I will just paraphrase. He says, nature is the driving force of everything. And then he goes on to say, and I am the seed-giving Father. So, as I began to recognize the power and beauty of nature, it dawned on me how we as humans are so disconnected from nature, even though every element of our lives originates from and is governed by nature. Let us take a moment and think of nature as a parent that provides for her 7 billion human beings and all terrestrial, aquatic, and airborne creatures. Think of nature as the provider of everything. She nurtures and provides for 7 billion people, each one of who thinks and acts differently. So there's so much diversity in nature. And she does this by making every human being a principal deliverer of her resources. That's how she does it. So that's what nature does. It provides for us all in this way. It distributes its resources to each one of us through our very own fellow beings. Then the question arises, how does nature make everything flow so perfectly amid such diversity? It does so by using its own codes in inverted commas, that are connected uniformly with all humanity and creation for that matter. So nature has codes through which it engages in exactly the same way with every human being, irrespective of our diversity. So these codes bring uniformity. And in this Masterclass series, we will learn more about these codes, and we will recognize them, we will study them, we will interpret them, and then we will put them to practice. Suffice to say for now, at this point in our webinar, that nature is very actively engaged in every moment and event in our lives, even though we tend to be mentally disengaged from nature. We are simply too busy with our own self-centers, so it's now time to open up. The truth is, my dear friends, that nature basically facilitates everything in our lives in this material world through its tools, resources, and codes. This is one of the many realizations I was blessed with in 1995. Prior to that, I saw nature and myself as separate. Nature was out there with the plants and birds and trees, and that to me was nature. The environment was nature. And I was like an external observer looking at nature. But through this realization, I discovered that nature, in essence, drives everything in our lives, and that we are all an absolutely integral part of nature. I had always envisioned myself as being part of a universe, a great universe. I'm sure we've all done that. A universe that existed within the dark, starry nights. When I look out at night in the sky, I see a universe and I go, I am a part of it. But a universe I knew very little about. Most of us have thought this way because we grew up learning so. But once my eyes were opened to a greater reality, I realized that nature and the universe are in effect one and the same thing. Nature is here and present in everything, seen and unseen, small and large, finite and infinite, including those vast, dark, starry skies that I once thought was the universe. Hence, to me now, nature and universe are one and the same thing. So in the master classes, when I refer to universe, it implies nature and vice versa. There is no difference. Thirdly, I realize that when it comes to manifestation, our power of thought alone, the way we apply it randomly, is not sufficient. Thought alone, power of thought alone is not sufficient. There are particular steps we need to utilize in order to correctly deploy our power of thought in manifestation. Now, what are these steps? There are 5 of them, and let us consider them today one by one. The first step is the proposition itself. Now, we have all heard the phrase, ask and you shall receive. In simple terms, the proposition is what you are going to ask for. And this proposition is basically a thought that emerges in your mind. And logically speaking, when you ask for something, you must know why. You must consider its impact on your life, should you receive what you are asking for. So step 1 is about the proposition itself. Now, before we go any further, we have to start with the premise that we believe in our own individual and collective power of manifestation. This is essential. If we don't believe in this premise, then using our power of manifestation becomes extremely difficult. We are not able to manifest anything. And my first exposure to power of manifestation was when I was very young. And we were living on a farm outside of Mombasa in Kenya. And I believe the year was 1970, if I'm not mistaken, a long way back. And my parents had bought this farm 2 years before, and they'd used their entire life savings in the purchase of this farm. And so we were basically struggling. We were clearing up the land, and this year we had cleaned out all the bushes, forests, and we had planted the farm with market gardening vegetables like tomatoes, and also we had actually planted the seedlings now in the field. And we had a drought. So the seedlings were beginning to droop, and my parents were very concerned, particularly my father, who said, if this crop fails because of the drought, we are wiped out. We've put everything we have in this farm. And my mother said, no, we're not going to fail. This crop is not going to fail. And she said, we're all of us going to sit down, my father, mother, brother, and I, and we are going to pray. And we are going to invoke rain on our farm. Now, I was very young. I was impressionable. I thought the world of my mother, so whatever she said, great, I will follow. We sat down. It was about 7 in the evening, and she led a prayer, beautiful prayer, very, very powerful prayer, which I joined in. We all joined in. We all focused completely in what she was leading us with. And this was the first time I felt the power of prayer. And when we finished, we all went to bed, and we had a massive deluge of rain on our farm that night. Next morning we woke up, we were all overjoyed because we had finally received rain. And then when we were driving to school, my father used to pick up the neighbors' kids and take them to school as well. We used to share a ride. And my father says to the neighbor, thank God we all got rain last night. And he looked at us and said, is this a sick joke? And my father said, no, we had rain. It was fantastic. And the guy was just shaking his head. And what had happened was we had had rain on our farm, and there was a spillover on each side of the farm, but it had not reached our neighbors. It had not reached anywhere else, although I wish it had. That year, we had a bumper crop. We were amongst the very few farms that actually had a proper yield. And that year, because of that, we were able to build ourselves economically, and we were able to stabilize the whole farming venture, so to speak. So this was my first exposure to power of manifestation. When you believe, and belief is an absolute necessity. My mother believed unquestioningly. I followed because I believed that everything she was teaching us or saying was true. She had that power in her. And as a result, through belief, we manifested a rain cloud. And you may call it a miracle, but in 1995, when I was exposed to greater realities when writing my book on the 10 stages, is when I realized these are not miracles. We all have this ability. And this is what I want to share with you all in the coming masterclasses, so that you may use your abilities to the very best extent for your own life's journeys. So, coming back, I would say that based on this belief, which is fundamental, we can then proceed to make our proposition to nature for whatever we seek to manifest. Next, we need to, after making the proposition, we need to understand and internalize our proposition before we release it. Understand it, internalize it. What do we mean? What do we propose to manifest, and why? If we are going to ask Mother Nature to make something happen, Why? And let us call that thought that we wish to place in nature and prepare for manifestation, let us call it our proposition thought. To keep it simple, it's a thought. And a common example of a proposition thought is manifesting abundance, for example, or let's say manifesting companionship, something we have all sought in our lives at one time or the other. And in our Masterclass series, we will learn how to put into practice some of the most common manifestation thoughts. We'll try and cover as many as we can. I would say maybe probably 10 in all. And we'll pick the ones that are most pertinent to the challenges we all face in our lives, in our rapidly evolving world today. So once we know our proposition thought, we now have to consider how it fits in with our life's purpose, i.e., what we are here in this world to learn and achieve. How does this proposition thought fit in with our purpose? Now, what do I mean by this proposition thought fitting in or being in harmony with our purpose? When we did our webinars on karma, I would say 2 years ago, we learned about some important foundations which are covered in 3 videos that you can find on our YouTube channel. The first one, and I highly recommend you go back and visit them. The first one is called Understanding Karma and Its Resolution, because that starts off with purpose. Next is Knowing Your Soul and Reincarnation. This is the second video. And the third one on the topic was how to decipher déjà vu and the future. These 3 videos have a great deal of knowledge that I'm sure you can all benefit from and utilize in the back of your minds when we are working on manifestation. So let us take a few moments today, since you're not refreshed with it, let us take a few moments to just crystallize these foundations before we move on to learning how we use our powers of manifestation. So how does a soul gain its opportunity to manifest in this world? What is it seeking to achieve? What is its purpose? Firstly, each soul chooses what it seeks to learn in its journey. Next, this learning is granted by the origin or the creator. So it proposes what it wishes to learn, and the learning is granted by the creator. And you will see the process in the videos. And this forms what is called the soul bond, a bond between the soul and its creator. And this sets in motion the karmic compass, whose purpose is to ensure that the soul gets to experience all the events and lessons that will bring it the learning that it seeks. So these are the 3 core steps that lead us to purpose. And there's more you'll find in the videos. Suffice to say at this point that each one of us is here in this world with the purpose of learning and gaining knowledge. Now, I've shared with you the cycle of life many times, which is in my second book, which says the origin is life. So the creator is light. Light brings life. So we emerge from the light, which is what I talked about as oneness. Light brings life. Life brings experience. So because we are alive, we can gain experience in this world. And experience brings knowledge. Because when we reflect and learn from our experiences, we gain knowledge. And knowledge is light. So this is the full circle. A soul is always gaining knowledge and light. And so it chooses what it wants, what knowledge it wishes to gain in its lifetime. It makes its proposition to the creator. It is granted. That forms a soul bond. And then it manifests. And the karmic compass makes sure that the soul encounters all that it needs to encounter, experience-wise, events-wise, so that it gains the learning and the knowledge and the light that it sought at the beginning. So that's the cycle. Now, bearing in mind this purpose we have come with, each soul has its very own purpose. Each one is completely different. it is important that whatever we seek to manifest must be in harmony with this purpose. Now, you don't have to know exactly what your purpose is. However, each one of us has a vision of our lives, a vision for what our life must include. And that's a great place to start our introspection when it comes to looking at our manifestation thought, our proposition thought. Now, let us try and understand this process through the example of Seth, who is a man in his 60s. He is very wealthy, and he has ample wealth for him and his family for many generations. So he's done well in life. And Seth is sitting in his garden, contemplating what his next proposition thought should be for manifestation. And he comes up with, I wish to manifest more wealth. I wish to manifest more wealth. Now let us follow his subsequent thought process. So that's the first idea that he has. And he starts by asking himself, why? Why do I need to manifest more wealth? And the answer that comes into his mind is, because it gives me power. It gives me power. Wealth gives me power. Then his next question is, what will I do with this power? What do I need it for? So he says to himself, so that I can do more. So that I can do more. More of what? He asks. So you can see where the internal dialogue is going. He's beginning to break down his proposition to see if there is wisdom in this proposition. Does it meet with what his life is all about? This process is called introspective reasoning. Introspective reasoning. So when we go through the M-code technique and we start with a proposition, next is our introspective reasoning. So here, Seth is trying to reason out the basis for his proposition thought. And this is very important, because if you want to propose something to the universe, you had better know why and what you are proposing. Okay? So Seth's introspective reasoning process continues. He knows that amassing wealth is not the only reason he is here in this world for. He knows that. He's a smart man. He is astute enough to also know that his time here in this world is rapidly depleting. Each day he has one less day to live and achieve what he seeks to achieve. And would it make sense to waste more of his time on manifesting more wealth when he already has so much? Or should he be looking at other important aspects of his life where his next manifestation should be focused? He's asking himself this as part of his introspective reasoning. And this is where Seth has to consider factors such as, how much is enough? If my time were a currency, how best can I invest it? In exchange for what? What are my life's priorities? Now, when it comes to what are my life's priorities, this is where his life vision comes in. What are his priorities? And we all have ours. Each one of us does. So he starts to list his priorities, and he discovers that he has missed out on most of them. Most of them. Example, spending more time with his son, who he barely sees, even though they live under the same roof. It's his only son. He loves him very deeply, but he's too busy chasing wealth to be spending time, quality time with his son, who's just growing up before his eyes, but they don't really know each other. He doesn't know his son, and his son doesn't really know his father. So that's one of his priorities, spend more time. Secondly, giving his wife Azra the opportunity to build upon the career she gave up in order to support Seth through his education. She made huge sacrifices. She gave up everything to support and see him through his education, to get him to where he is today. He has done nothing towards making up for her sacrifices, and he always wanted to. So that's the second. The third is being with his mother, who is battling cancer at the other end of the world. He needs to spend time with her He needs to have quality moments with her. He knows that her life is short, but he's done nothing about it. Why? Because he has to be in meetings, he has to go on his jet, and he's got to be in different places. Doing what? Amassing more wealth. Next, he's always had a dream of building an education trust where young people could, all over the world, could become independent by learning to code software and then selling their services online through freelance work. He wanted to create this education foundation, create the tools so that he could empower young people all over the world. And by doing so, he would empower their families. He's done nothing on this one. He's just sat, contemplated, dreamt, but not taken a single step towards accomplishing this. So these are some examples of Seth's priorities. And Seth's list is much larger than what I've just shared because he has a fairly broad life vision. He didn't get to where he wanted to, where he is, without thinking that way. Then he asks himself some more questions, part of his introspective reasoning. He says, what if I don't wake up tomorrow? And if today were my last day in the world, what priorities would I dedicate my final hours towards? What are they? So this is how Seth sets about deciding on what his proposition thought should be for manifestation. And he has now decided manifesting more wealth is not it. That's not where he wants to spend more of his time. So this has gotten this far with his introspective reasoning, which says you need another proposition thought. Now, we all have our list of life priorities and our own life's vision. And that's the perfect place to start with. My dear friends, blindly making a proposition for manifestation is not sufficient. This proposition must make sense, and it must align with our life's purpose and priorities. And Seth's brief example demonstrates that. And we need to go through that ourselves from within. And this is an essential foundation of manifestation. You cannot manifest something that goes against your life purpose or life vision. It most likely won't work. The manifestation simply may not happen, and you will be disappointed. Remember, when you seek to manifest something, you are placing your proposition in nature or the universe. And I just shared with you the power of nature, the power of the universe. And it will engage with other creation to give you the results you are seeking. So you are starting a powerful process when you seek to manifest something. And it involves so many people, so many places, so many events. That's what you're about to do. And nature will only do this if your proposition fits the big picture of why you are here in this world. Why are you consuming nature's resources 24/7? What is the purpose of your being here? And if your manifestation thought, if your proposition thought fits with that, sure, it will happen. But it has to fit within what I call nature's algorithm. Then your manifestation will happen. If it doesn't, it won't. So let's be very clear, my dear friends, about our mindset when it comes to using our power of manifestation. We must know what we are seeking and why. What and why. And remember, nature is highly intelligent. We can't fool nature. Therefore, our proposition thought process, has to be a very honest one. So, my dear friends, consider our powers of manifestation simply as an empowering tool to achieve the learning and experiences we are here for in this world. It's an empowering tool. Now let's learn how to use it correctly, and have success and achievement. So the next step, now that we have crystallized what our proposition thought is, the next step is to empower this proposition. So step 2 is proposition empowerment. This empowerment can be achieved consciously, or often it occurs subconsciously, unconsciously. I'll give you an example, again, my own example, which I've shared with you before. But when I was 16 and living on our farm, we had a cholera epidemic in Kenya. And I remember, because there were some cases near our farm, I remember seeing young children, happy, healthy, plump, you watch them on TV as well, running around, and a few days later they had shriveled into skeletons. And those visions had a big impact on me. And I remember one day saying, in my life, I am going to help bring an end to water-carried disease, because I knew cholera comes from water. Now, once I thought that, something began. I had no idea. I was just 16. You make such a thought, you are impacted by something, but then you forget about it. And the girlfriends come along, and life comes along. I get to England to do my university education. I'd always wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And I applied to medical school. And despite the fact that I'm a good student, I do not get a single interview from medical school, which is very rare. And I remember calling my mom and saying, I'm a good student. Why is it that I cannot get into any medical school? And she said, the right door will open for you at the right time, so don't lose hope. And then I started looking at chemical engineering because my brother encouraged me to. And I get a letter from Aston University in Birmingham saying, we want to call you for an interview. I go for an interview, and I spend pretty much the whole day there being interviewed by so many different people. And I thought, is this what university interviews are like? And then finally they say to me, we are giving you an unconditional offer. Regardless of what your grades are, you have a place here. Condition is you must withdraw from medicine. You take this offer. And I thought, bird in hand, better than two in the bush. I accepted their offer. Went in to study chemical engineering. Had a very rough time, because chemical engineering is not chemistry, it's all mathematics. And my subjects at A level were all geared towards biology and medicine. Thank God I did not get into medicine, because after I turned 40, my hands started to shake, and you wouldn't want me cutting open your brain. You wouldn't want a surgeon opening your head whose hands were shaking this way. So again, universe knew better. I graduated from chemical engineering with first-class honors, which was in those days in England very hard to achieve. But I worked very hard to achieve that, and the universe was helping me all along. And I remember when our grades were announced and we had a cocktail evening, the guy at Aston, the senior admissions director for chemical engineering, introduced me to the professor who was the external examiner from Imperial College, London, and said, this young man was brought on as a guinea pig, because we all had a debate, should we discriminate against students who don't have mathematics at A level? Or should we not be so difficult about it and let them in and see? So I was a guinea pig. That's why I got that unconditional offer, not because they liked the look of my face. And he said, this young man has proved it, because he came in with no mathematics, totally geared for medicine, and he's come out with first-class honors. So the answer is, we should not discriminate. And we all laughed about it, and I left scratching my head going, boy, I was a guinea pig for the last few years. But it felt good. And then my career took me towards water. And in my mid-30s, I was in Vietnam, and I was part of inventing some pretty advanced water purification technology. And I was in Vietnam, and my company had put in drinking water systems. By that time, I had left my employers and started my own, but we had put in drinking water systems. And we were in a place called Lang Son, which is along a river. And there you have a town, you have people take water from the river, and then they put their sewage back in the same river, and a few kilometers later another community drinks that water and puts sewage back in it. So infant mortality was very high, a lot of health issues in those days. People were really suffering. And when our system started up, it was producing crystal clear water, like your bottled water. And all these people of different ages had water containers in their hands, and they were dancing and rejoicing. And I asked the mayor, what are they doing? And he said, for years we've all prayed and hoped that somebody would bring us clean water. And he said, today it has happened. We don't have to drink or bathe in water that is the color of your coffee. And just then, I froze. My hair rose. I went back to that moment at the age 16, and I said, oh my God, it has happened. Because that thought that I made about eliminating water-carried disease was etched in the universe, and it happened. And look at how it transformed that community. A year later, Karima and I visited that community. People were grabbing our hands, taking us into their little homes, and showing us the one tap of water. Transform the community. When you give people clean water, you bring hope, you bring strength, you bring a new power to them. When their children are not dying before their eyes, that sadness is gone. That sense of helplessness is gone. Hope and strength is present, and we saw that in front of our eyes. So manifestation occurred. Now, in my case, that proposition thought of mine that I'm going to help eliminate water-carried disease was etched in the universe. And it manifested. It actually changed the whole direction of my life. And it manifested with so much strength because the rest of my career was with water and the environment. And really what it was at the time was a thought in the mind of a 16-year-old, but a very powerful thought. And therefore it manifested subconsciously. So in my case, it was all subconscious. Why? Because the thought was powerful and unselfish. My proposition thought was powerful and unselfish. Born in the mind of a 16-year-old, sure. But it was unselfish because I had no agenda. And so I did not have to consciously think or do anything. The process had started. Now, remember that I use the word unselfish. When we give birth to a proposition thought for the greater good, and it is unselfish, the empowerment of that thought is phenomenal. And I just shared the results with you. So part of contemplating our proposition thought is how much of it is selfish and how much is unselfish. We have to ask ourselves, what is the potential impact of our proposition thought? If we can incorporate a selfless dimension to our proposition thought, rest assured, we will now be engaging with a whole new level of power that resides in the universe. And it's there, and we can access it. But it must be selfless. And I'm not saying that if there's a selfish dimension to our proposition thought that we cannot manifest it. Sure we can. We absolutely can. But it will be empowered differently. Let's look at an example. You've all seen these big ships that go slowly in the ocean. They are powered by a thick black oil called bunker fuel. Thick black oil. And the ship goes slowly, but ultimately it gets to its destination. So bunker fuel gets it there. The thick black oil gets it there. That I look at as the selfish dimension. And an unselfish proposition thought, on the other hand, can be like jet fuel that can propel aircrafts across the skies. So know your proposition and empower it as best as you can. So now let us come back to Seth's example again for a moment and carry his thinking forward. He's decided he's not interested in wasting any more of his life creating more wealth. So let's see how he consciously empowers his new proposition thought. Let's say his new proposition thought is to manifest his dream of building training centers where young people can learn to code software online regardless of their geography. Someone in a small village in Tajikistan and a kid in Africa and a kid somewhere in China, they can all go online and they can learn on his platform software coding at no cost to them. So regardless of their geography. Now Seth starts going through first the selfish part of his proposition. He asks himself, he's at peace with this proposition thought of pursuing that dream. He asks himself, what's in it for me? Fair question. Everybody asks that. And his answer is, it makes me feel good. My legacy will never be forgotten because the world will remember me for the transformation I will create. So that's his ego speaking. He wants to be remembered, and that is perfectly fine. Who doesn't? Well, not everybody does, but generally is fine. He is honest with himself. And this is very important because he knows he cannot fool nature. He knows that nature will catch him out if he is not totally honest with his proposition. So next he considers the unselfish aspects of his proposition, which will help empower it to a higher level. By character, Seth always goes the jet fuel way. In everything he does. He does not follow the slow ships and the bunker fuel, heavy oil way. He goes jet fuel. And that's how he's been successful in his life. So he says, my proposition will empower young people all over the world. So that's a very powerful seed, that thought. Then he says, this is the best way for me to spend my hard-earned money. Another powerful seed. He says, I will invest whatever it takes to have a huge global reach where young people can learn from wherever they are. Again, selfless, gaining more power. He says, I will invest in technology, hardware, and software to achieve this. And so these thoughts raise the power of his proposition because each of these thoughts is a very powerful seed. Then he says, I will put a real dent in poverty because I will give these young people a chance, young coders, a forum online at no cost to them to do freelance work and get paid without any middleman taking away a chunk of their earnings. They are going to get 100% of what they earn. And he said, this is how I will put a serious dent in poverty. So the jet fuel has now kicked in heavily for Seth. His proposition has now gained a serious amount of power. And my dear friends, we can see in this example how Seth consciously empowers his proposition thought as he goes through that contemplative process. Will he be able to manifest his proposition? I would give him very high chances of success. I believe, yes, he will. In my case, it was a subconscious empowerment because it was 100% selfless. I had no personal agenda. And so the manifestation happened with strength and certainty. In Seth's case, he gets there consciously as he contemplates his way forward. Whichever way it happens, empowering your proposition thought is a key second step. Third step is engaging the manifestation code. Here it gets more interesting. So the third step is all about building the vibration level of our proposition. And there are two parts to the third step. The first part is to raise the vibration level through adding positive seed thoughts, as we saw in Seth's example. And the second part is to add a manifestation code. So let us start with the positive seed thoughts first. Now, what do we mean by vibration level? In our previous webinars, on many occasions, I've explained the vibration of thought at many levels, shared illustrations. When you have the time, please go back to the YouTube channel and review some of them. But today I will briefly encapsulate the concept of vibration level. And please do watch the videos, but I'll briefly encapsulate it for the benefit of us all. What is the vibration level of a thought? Earlier we've talked about how our thoughts are like living seeds. Thought has life that flows from us to other beings, to nature, and to the environment, where they germinate and they create responses, events, and experiences. So thought has life. Each thought has an energy, a life energy. Just like we have life energy that makes our body alive, thought has a life energy of its own. And it is the energy that characterizes the thought itself. This energy of the thought is what we refer to as its vibration. Now, to understand vibration level better, let's look at a simple analogy of a rainbow, which projects the energy and vibration level of light through different colors. That's what a rainbow does. Every time you look at a rainbow, remember, you are seeing the vibration energy levels of 7 different colors. Each of its 7 colors has a different energy level. Each of its 7 colors is made up of different waves of light. So we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Those are the 7 colors. And each of these colors has its own wave of light. And you can think of these waves like the waves in the ocean. Some waves are large and far apart, like the ones people go surfing in, huge waves that come slowly and they're spaced far apart. So some waves are like that. Other waves are crunched together, small, and come very frequently, very fast, like ripples. You can think of vibrations the same way. In the rainbow, the red color has large waves spread apart. So we can say that red has a lower energy level. We can equally say it has a lower vibration because these waves are so spread out, so there's very few of them. A high vibration is with so many of them together. So red color has the lowest vibration. The orange color, the waves are slightly closer together than red, and so orange has a higher energy and vibration level than red. Similarly, yellow has a higher energy or vibration level than orange. And as you go across the rainbow, from green to blue to indigo to violet, the energy level or vibration level of the light keeps increasing from color to color. Hence, violet has the highest energy and vibration of all colors. Violet has the most number of waves all tied together. So a simple analogy. And that is why when you apply sunscreen, you are trying to block the most powerful ultraviolet rays from burning your skin because they are the most powerful. You are less worried about the big and weak infrared rays. It's the ultraviolet that you put your sunscreen for to protect yourself. So each color in the rainbow is a result of its vibration level. Okay? And that's a very simplistic way of looking at how colors of light work, vibrations of light work. Thought vibrations can be thought of in exactly the same way. Same analogy. Negative thoughts are like the red and orange and yellow colors of the rainbow, for example. They have low vibrations, few waves spread apart. Those are negative thoughts, low vibration. Then as you rise above the negative and go towards the positive, the vibration level goes up. So positive thoughts are like the color green, blue, indigo, and violet. Violet having the highest vibration. So now coming back to our proposition thought for manifestation, we have to shape, in inverted commas, shape it with the highest vibration we can. We have to make it as powerful as we can. And this shaping can be done by adding positive and unselfish dimensions to our proposition. And we can do that consciously. And in fact, Seth did that in step 2 when he empowered his proposition. So that's one part. His contemplation went through the selfish and unselfish dimensions of his proposition. As he built upon the unselfish dimensions, his proposition gained more and more power, as we saw. His unselfish thoughts about eliminating poverty and empowering young people, irrespective of geography, were of very high vibration. That significantly elevated the power of his proposition thought. So Seth's empowerment step, with its contemplation process, served to raise the vibration level of his proposition. So that's one part of step 3, is the raising of the vibration level, consciously or subconsciously. The second part of step 3 involves tapping into very high vibration symbols that are present in nature. These vibration symbols are what I call manifestation codes. What are these manifestation codes, you may ask? So let us consider when we pray. What happens when we pray? When we pray, we put out whatever we are seeking into nature or the universe or into the hands of our Creator. We put it out there, what we are seeking. And we have all practiced prayer in our lives, and we do so every day. Now, how are our prayers answered? They are answered through other fellow beings who come into our life, who bring us the solutions we seek, or at least lead us towards those solutions. Our prayers are also answered by many other events that originate from nature. So nature plays a key role in answering our prayers. Manifestation works the same way. As mentioned earlier, when we talk of nature, we are in essence referring to the ever-intelligent universe that sustains us. Remember, we live amidst pure, infinite intelligence. Now, when we pray, we invoke help or solutions, and they come to us from nature through all the creation it hosts. And we too are part of nature, and we are all beings of oneness with nature and all its creation. So our thoughts flow from us and germinate everywhere in nature, and hence in our fellow beings. So we are constantly giving off seeds of thought into nature, and are receiving them too. And this creates events, circumstances, and a whole series of life experiences. So we are like gardeners. We plant our seeds and experience the outcomes of what we plant. We also partake of what our fellow beings have planted, and hence we are all totally bonded with nature and with one another through our thought. That's the power and beauty of what we are doing here in this material world. Nature basically reaches and influences every creation. So it is like the common reservoir that drives everything. Now, because of this, nature in itself has codes we can draw upon, through which we can shape our proposition and further raise its vibration level to a point where it can be released for manifestation. Now you may wonder, why do manifestation codes exist? It is because these codes are common to every creation. While our individual thoughts may differ, the manifestation code remains uniform, and it will resonate with all of us in exactly the same way. Here's a good analogy to understand this manifestation code. Assume that we want all human beings of this world to raise their left hand. Okay? We want all human beings of this world to raise their left hand. How do we say to them, raise your left arm? In a way that everybody understands. I mean, there's so many languages in the world. Which one would you use? What universal message or code can we create that everyone can understand? That is what the manifestation code is. A universal communication that resonates with with everybody, with every creation. So the manifestation code in this case will show a sketched symbol of a person with a raised left hand. Everyone can understand this symbol, regardless of language, race, or culture. And this is how nature communicates with us through its codes that resonate universally with all, and hence are understood by all at the level of thought. We all get it. Some of us are aware of it, some of us are not, but we resonate with nature through its codes. These codes are very, very powerful, and their power lies hidden in their subtlety. They are very subtle. Now, the type of manifestation code we choose depends on what we are seeking to manifest. Because remember, manifestation happens through participation of our fellow creation. It does not happen in a vacuum. About a month ago, before we decided on this class, I started getting inspired with a number of manifestation codes of nature, and each one associated with a particular type of manifestation. And I look forward to sharing them with you in our Masterclass series. So as they kept coming, I began to realize, okay, this is the missing piece in our power of manifestation, adding this code. It takes it to a whole new level. So my dear friends, manifestation codes are of nature, can even be found expressed in our scriptures, because their presence significantly raises the vibration of the lesson that the scripture is teaching. For example, one scripture starts with the words, by the fig and the olive, and then goes on to teach about the difference between good and evil. Now, what do figs and olives have to do with good and evil? At the outset, you may say, nothing. And maybe you won't be wrong. So why are such words present in the scripture verse? Why are they there? Why do they open the lesson of the scripture that it is relating? These words that you say, I think, are unrelated. These words are the vibration symbols of nature that we just covered. They are manifestation codes for the learning that follows in the scripture. Now, once I gave you the example of fig and olive, then I went and contemplated very deeply, why are you there? And of course, I realized that they're not just random words. They do bear a very, very, very subtle relationship to the message that follows. And when we learn more and more of these codes, I will explain their subtle connections with what we are trying to manifest. So nothing exists in nature, nothing comes in the scriptures without a purpose and an absolute meaning. But some of them are extremely subtle. So coming back to the M-code technique, once we have correctly engaged the manifestation code to our proposition, we are now ready to move to the fourth step. What is the fourth step? The fourth step is the invocation step. So our proposition thought is now empowered, and its vibration level has been raised to its highest level possible. Now we are ready to invoke our proposition thought to nature or the universe. We are ready. And in the invocation, we will use certain specific wording within which our manifestation code is attached. So our invocation is going to be a series of words within which the manifestation code is. And in our next class, which will be the second one of the Masterclass series, we will focus on how to manifest abundance. So we will go through the proposition phase, we will go through the introspective reasoning, we will go through all these steps, and then we will learn the manifestation code, what is its subtle significance, and then put it together. And there I will share that in the wording of the invocation that is recommended to manifest abundance. So there is a code in nature actually for the flow of abundance. And our invocation will include the wording and essence of this manifestation code. Once we repeat our invocation multiple times in our minds with full focus and understanding of each word, we will have planted what we call our seed of manifestation, in inverted commas, our seed of manifestation. So these 4 steps have brought us to the seed of manifestation. And we will plant it in nature, and that's where the manifestation process can begin. So steps 1 to 4 basically take us from our initial proposition, choosing the right one, to making it a seed of manifestation. And the 5th and last step is nurturing the invocation. After we invoke our proposition thought with its manifestation code, the process does not end here. We have simply started the process. Our proposition will not manifest by itself. We have to regularly reflect on our proposition thought. We have to remember it. Our manifestation seed, once we place it in nature, will trigger many things in nature to give us what we seek. So we have to be mindful and identify the signs that will begin to appear in our lives. What are these signs? Examples. We will meet new people. We will learn new things. We will encounter new problems and opportunities, all of which will be guiding us towards where we need to get to. These signs may inspire us towards actions we need to take. And we have to act on whatever is required to help make our manifestation transpire. So we have set off a beautiful and powerful process. Now we have to be mindfully part of it. And this takes awareness and conscious effort. Awareness and conscious effort. It's an ongoing process. Finally, patience is one of the most important requirements of manifestation. We don't get to decide on when the manifestation will occur. Its timing is entirely based on one's life journey and where one is on that journey, one's level of readiness for the manifestation, and one's karmic compass that fosters the learning that a soul has sought to accomplish. So once we have planted our manifestation seed, we need to be patient and place our faith in nature or the universe that our response will follow at the right time. So these are the 5 steps to manifesting what we seek. So let us conclude by very briefly summarizing the M-code technique. And this is what I want you to take away with you. Listen to this video recording, reflect, and be ready for the next masterclass, which will be on manifesting abundance. So firstly, we come up with our proposition thought via introspective reasoning. And we saw how to do it through the example of Seth. Secondly, we empower our proposition thought through contemplation steps that raise its energy and vibration level. Remember, heavy oil, ship fuel goes slow, versus jet fuel in the example of Seth. We looked at power of our proposition. Thirdly, we raise the vibration level of our proposition thought by adding these seeds of positive thought to it, which have high vibration levels. Next, we add the appropriate manifestation code to the proposition to prepare it to engage with nature and thus give it the greatest power possible. This manifestation code will resonate equally with all beings that will participate in enabling the realization of our manifestation. So it's like nature copying all the right people on its email, the people that will participate in delivering your manifestation. Fourthly, we take the invocation step, where we invoke our empowered proposition thought with its manifestation code right into nature or the universe, where it can germinate and cause manifestation of what we seek. And we call this invocation our manifestation seed. Now we shall learn the wordings of different invocations in our classes, in our coming classes. And finally, once we have made our invocation and planted our manifestation seed in the infinite intelligence of nature, we then consciously nurture it as it germinates and manifests into what we seek. And this is an ongoing process where we build upon our efforts to achieve our manifestation. We don't just think something and expect it will just happen. It doesn't work that way. That is where many have missed the boat when trying to apply the laws of attraction and using their powers of manifestation. They simply think it and think, okay, I've thought it, now it's going to happen. It doesn't work that way. And finally, patience is one of the most important requirements for manifestation. Once we have planted our manifestation seed, we need to be patient and place our faith in nature or the universe that our response will follow at the right time. So today we have touched upon the 5 key steps to manifestation, and they all come together in the M-Code technique. It's a fair bit of information, but it's very simple. And in our coming classes, we will focus on learning these 5 steps as best as we can, practically, and then applying them to the common manifestations that most of us seek to achieve. And it is my hope that once you learn the art of manifestation, you may be able to use your gift for the betterment of yourself and that of humanity at large. Remember, we are all part of a mass consciousness, and as we all begin to plant our manifestation seeds in this mass consciousness as well, they will grow and spread into the mass consciousness in amazing ways. And that's how we can actually change the direction of our world as well. So manifestation codes enhance our lives, but it can also create a change in the world that redirect our course in the direction of the greater good. So I would like to thank you all for being here today, and I pray that you may all be blessed by the Creator, that the light of the Creator may always be with you, to help you, guide you, protect you, and love you. Stay blessed, and I look forward to seeing you at the next masterclass. It's going to be on manifesting abundance.